All right, well, welcome everyone to Lean On Navy. We have a very exciting panel today. Admiral Couture, Captain O'Connell, and Command Master Chief Hafer here today to lead the conversation, sharing their hopes, their histories, their hurts, their heroes, in order to really set up for us what we are calling authentic conversations. So if you were at the last session or if you've watched it, you've maybe been thinking about how to moderate authentic conversations. So we'll dig into that today. By way of introduction, I'll go ahead and put up, you can see the agenda. So I'll spend about 3 minutes here kicking off Lean On and tell you what it's all about. And then I will introduce our topic and our guest mentors today. And then we'll have about 30 minutes where it'll be like a round robin. And each of our 3 guests has graciously offered to share their one of their 4 H's. And we'll go for as long as many rounds as we can get through in 30 minutes. And then we'll break into small groups. So at that point, we will have about 10 minutes where you'll find yourself in a breakout room of 3 to 4 people. And I'll tee that up for you so you know what to expect there. And then that gives us about 15 minutes to come back. And any questions that came up in your breakout, Q&A with the panel, any reflections on what this was all about, that's the real meat of this engagement here, is that we get to interact. And then wrap up. And then we have the after party. And our guests have agreed, most of them able to stay the last half hour. So you're welcome to just log off at the hour or stick around. And we do continue to record unless it gets, specifically someone asks not to. And then the after party is just a chance to continue the conversation. So that's the hour. A little bit of housekeeping. Go ahead and select speaker view once I'm done with this presentation. And that way, when our panel shifts, the person who is speaking, they'll be on your screen. So select speaker view. Housekeeping here, log off anytime. So distractions come up, no issue. Just, you don't even have to explain yourself. We all get it. We're all in the middle of our very busy lives, and many of us are at home. We cannot control the world around us. So if the world is happening to you, please just log off and maybe catch the recording later. Please feel free to use chat. The engagement of the audience is really the secret sauce of these engagements. Tech chat. So Vic Reeve has offered to continuously support us. So if you have any support questions, just go ahead and text tech chat with her and ask you to put yourself on mute. So public service announcements. One, always welcome to go to leanonnavy.com. That's where you'll find past recordings. I encourage you to share that with anyone else who wants to learn from fellow leaders in the past. Another public service announcement, very excited to announce that Lena Kamen has taken over the Facebook page for me. Thank you. So it is now active and you can like post on it, things that should have been easy for me and just were not easy for me. She just took over for me. So that Facebook page is now active, has about 50 followers right now. It's really meant for a place for this conversation to continue. So please follow that page now. It is active and working. And the last public service announcement is we have a date now for the Joint Women's Leadership Symposium. It is July 10th through 13th in Norfolk. So you can go on. I've recently been elected president, and Rosie, I know I'm following in your footsteps there. But yeah, recently elected president of the Sea Service Leadership Association, which is all about professional development of women in uniform. So it's for men and women who want to support professional development of women. So I encourage you to check out that website and join if you want to be a member of SSLA. So with that, we can come off of the PowerPoint slide, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you our guest speakers today, our 3 guest mentors. We have Admiral Jennifer Couture, who's going to kick it off. She is currently the commander of Naval Service Training Command and has had command twice. So she was the commanding officer of USS Kaufman, FFG 59. I got to be on board a few times when she was in command there. And then she was the Commodore for Desron 28. She was one of my original gangster mentors when we were starting out this lean in circles, and they were in person. I see some smiling faces from other members who were there back in the day. I was a lieutenant commander. She was a commander, and honestly, it was just fascinating to get to meet, a mother, like what, you can be a mom and be in command. How is this done? So loved that example that you set for me, ma'am, and that you opened up your home to these conversations years ago. And my pleasure to also announce Captain Christy O'Connell here today, another Lean In original gangster, also hosted at her house many, many years ago and throughout the years, and also a mother. So just, to normalize that this has happening and there's a lot of ways to do it in command, both of Winston S. Churchill and of Lake Erie, and is now the executive assistant and naval aide to the Assistant Secretary of the Navy. So thank you for joining us, Christy. And Command Master Chief Jen Hafer from NLEC, Navy Leader Ethics Command. There she is waving. She wore her unicorn shirt today because she might have been called a unicorn when she was one of few women in her command. So that was her prop today, was her unicorn sweater. She was senior enlisted leader at ESG 7 in Japan, and she was a CMC of Arleigh Burke, DDG 51. Some of my favorite after parties for Lean In have been when she's stuck around, because she's icy. She adds just good questions and good thought. And I'm just always really, really happy to have you here. Oh, and she's got more props. So keep your eyes out for what she has to say. So with that, we'll start off this round robin and ask you, Admiral Couture, to share with us one of the 4 H's.
Okay, well, let me start with history, because I feel like it's always good to start at the beginning. And you had asked, to kind of reflect on how we joined the Navy and why we stayed. So I am an NROTC product. I went to George Washington University. But even before that, when I was a wee Girl Scout, I visited the Naval Academy. I knew nothing about the Navy. I had never seen a ship. I never knew anyone who served in the Navy. And we took a Girl Scout trip to Annapolis. I was 13 and I saw the midshipmen and I thought, these are the most amazing people I've ever met. I mean, they were really smart. They were really athletic. They were very confident. And they seemed to be just genuine, stand-up people of integrity. And when I looked at them at the age of 13, I thought to myself, this is the kind of person I want to be when I grow up. And ever since then, I have had that small feeling, am I the person that I want to be? As I remember being a young person and thinking, I don't know anything about this organization they're a part of, but I want in because this organization is offering me something that clearly is going to be good for me as a human. And I certainly didn't have the language to articulate that, but I felt it. And so although my path had diverged and I ended up not going to the Naval Academy because I really wanted to have both. I wanted to go to college and be immersed in academics and the discourse that's involved in that. And so have my cake and eat it too. And my eating the cake was becoming a naval officer. And so throughout my career, what I've tried to remember is, am I being that person for someone else? Is someone looking at me and saying, this is the kind of person I want to be? And sometimes that was probably true, and sometimes it was probably not true. And that's another story. But I've tried to grow from those experiences where I probably hadn't had my best foot forward. And then the why I stayed part. I realized a couple things. One, that I could generate, that the longer I stayed, I could generate the kind of culture in the organization that I wanted to have. I'm sure that many of us, as we go through today's discussion, will reflect on the fact that 25, 30 years ago, the Navy wasn't as welcoming of a place as it even is today. And I'll put an asterisk next to that because I know it doesn't feel that way for a lot of people. But just in terms of measuring where we were to where we are. And my husband, is my number one fan. Him and my mother vie for positions on my fan club, and had said, look, you have the opportunity to do something really great for a lot of people, not the least of which is your own daughter, who was a toddler at the time. And he said, you have the opportunity to show her that she could be whatever she wants to be and not just talk about it. Daggone it, I hate it when he's right, but he really convicted me there. And I really felt that, that this was an opportunity that was bigger than, it was not about me. It was about a lot of things, not just about me and climbing a corporate ladder and being successful and having rank and position and money. It was about what could I do with my position? How could I use my position to be the example for other people, or continuing to learn and grow, and then creating the kind of organization that everyone wants to be a part of, and that teamwork. And that's kind of why I'm still a SWO after all this time, because I've never thought of any other organization that I wanted to be part of other than the ship. I get kind of lost on shore duty. So this is kind of a new experience for me, being in charge of shore duty. I walk around the building and a lot of people are teleworking, and I'm looking for somebody to have a cup of coffee with and tell sea stories, and no one's there. But I love the camaraderie of being on that ship, and seeing every person be valuable, have impact on the mission, have important things to contribute to that mission. And then at the end, watching everyone feel that they really accomplished something, whether it's landing the landing force, whether it's launching, a full flight schedule off the deck of an aircraft carrier, or whether it is completing an underway replenishment on a DDG, and I could go on and on, BBSS operations. It literally takes every person. And you'd think that when you go to a bigger ship, it would not take every person to do the mission. But after my carrier appreciation tour as a Desron Commodore, I realized it really does take every person. So that's how I got here, and that's why I stayed, and I will stay as long as the Navy keeps offering me amazing opportunities to do good things. Ma'am.
Wow, man, thank you so much. I'm tempted to comment on all of that because I find it also just fascinating, interesting. And I'm going to turn it over now to Christy. So Captain O'Connell, what would you like to share for your history or your hope or your hurt or your hero?
My history is going to be very much like Jen's. So I will talk about my hero. Actually, this one was a really tough one for me. I have so many heroes. And it's changed and morphed over the years. I love to read about heroes when I was growing up. I worked my way through the children's biography section at the Crosby, Texas Public Library when I was in elementary school. The two that really stuck out for me were Helen Keller and George Washington Carver, because they stretched themselves so much beyond the limitations imposed on them by their physical disabilities, like Helen Keller was blind and deaf, as well as society's impositions, which was George Washington Carver's, what he was having to overcome. And then not only did they overcome these significant barriers, but they helped their fellow humans as they were doing it. Helen Keller would speak to the troops and just continue to inspire them. She got a college degree in spite of all her limitations. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention her teacher, Anne Sullivan, who was right there by her side, taught her to speak, taught her sign language, the whole 9 yards. But I mean, to have those women as my inspiration when I was a second and a third grader, just kind of like, I have no excuse after everything that those two accomplished. And then George Washington Carver, of course, African-American, grew up in the South, invented peanut butter, and he was a scientist, and he contributed to society in ways that we're still enjoying today. In spite of everything, he just did it, and he stayed positive about it, and he made a difference during very hard times. So those were kind of the starting point of my hero worship. And ever since then, there's been more added along the way. I recently read The Fleet at Flood Tide, gained a whole new appreciation for Admiral Spruance. He led the efforts in the Pacific at the end of World War II, or towards the midpoint to the end of World War II. So all the way to the end. Really competent, loved to read, which I like, was courageous. There was one story that was in this book, The Fleet at Flood Tide. I recommend it. It's by Jim Hornfisher, where his flagship is just been hit by a kamikaze or something. And he is, as he's walking from, you know, the flaming end to the not on fire end, he stops and helps a hose team who were fighting a fire. And then he just continued and continued and continued and never sought the next glory. Didn't seek out fleet admiral, just stayed humble, stayed true to the mission, stayed true to himself and his sailors. And then when it was all done, he went into retirement and he was done. Just great deal of admiration for him. And then of course, always, all of us, especially SWOs, I'm sure, have always found inspiration in our sailors, those that pulled themselves out of really bad home situations, joined the service, making lives better for themselves, their families, just envisioning a future that is better than where they're coming from. And then when they get on board the ship, they're braving the winds and the seas and those nasty unreps and the freezing cold weather and the super hot weather and everything else, just to make the mission happen, to support each other, to be a team. Just, my mind, heroes every day. They were a constant source of inspiration for me. And then throughout, just people who are optimistic, people who see bad things happening, whether it's on TV or in their own lives, and they choose not to let it get them down or let it detract from themselves. They choose to build on it, to make themselves better, to lift other people up, to collaborate. So my heroes are everywhere. So like I said, had a really hard time pinning this down to one thing or one person, because they're out there everywhere. So.
Wow, so much there. Thank you so much for sharing. CMC, Hafer, what do you got?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know which one I want to do. Hi, everybody. So I feel like, ma'am, I got to come directly to yours, because when I sat down and put the pen to paper and was like, who's my hero? I was like, well, it's my grandparents, born in the early 1900s, survived it all, right? But then I was like, Jen, who is it really? And honestly, I love the everyday hero. I love the man and the woman, to your point, ma'am, that gets up in the morning and says, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give my best today because somebody needs me. Somebody deserves my best. So I'm going to give it to them. Now, maybe they'll put a uniform on. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll just stay in their pajamas all day. I guarantee you, I have some of my best days drinking coffee in my PJs all day. Okay. But the everyday hero is the man and the woman that's going to get up and say, I'm going to give you my best no matter what's going on. And maybe I'm not having a great day, but I know that when I look to the left and to the right, I look at all 33 of you in this room, that I'm going to try to give you my best. And maybe today I'm not going to do it. Maybe you won't do it, but tomorrow we're going to wake up and we are going to crush it. Right? So I would offer, here's a point to ponder. There's 33 of us in this room. I'm willing to bet that each and every one of us is somebody's hero. I look at Admiral Couture. She's my hero. I remember the day she gave me her coin in a parking lot right outside of the Naval Hospital, right after a change of command. Right? I mean, to see my Commodore was a woman and she was destroying it. See what I did there? The destroyer connection. Okay. But we could all be someone's hero if we take that power of positivity, if we take what Captain O'Connell just talked about and find that optimism, find it and bring it to life. And now we got 33 new heroes. And if we take that and spread it, it will be so darn infectious that even the 17-year-old girl from the south side of Chicago knows that one day she could be somebody's hero. All she had to do was give it her best. So I'll leave you with that one.
My goodness. Each one of you could be its own presentation. This is quite a bit here. Admiral Couture, over to you for whatever next H you would like to share. Yeah.
Oh, thanks so much. Well, we're cheating because, we've known each other, all of us, and it's so exciting. I'm honored, CMC, that you would say I'm your hero, but that's so I can just check that off, right? Like, I joined the Navy to be the kind of person that other people would admire. And so I'll check that off. And since you were in one of my ships, that some days I did not have my good days. I'll finish out the category of heroes and talk about one other thing. And I certainly agree with everything that both Captain O'Connell and CMC said. And I will add one thing there. We've probably all heard that expression of follow the helpers, especially lately. And when I think about that, when I think about the kind of people that I've seen as heroes, they tend to be all the people that are the helpers. I was in 2004, I was in my second department head command second department head tour before anyone even thought about mentoring me. We've talked a lot about mentorship lately. There just were not women available to mentor me at that time. They just weren't. And my CO was a helper. He was the kind of man who not only was a man of integrity and honor, but looked at all of us and said, what can I do to help you on life's journey? And what can I do to support you? And went out of his way to spend time with all of us, not just me, but it's the first time that anyone had ever done that for me in my life. Really sat down with me and said, here's how, what I think you should do, or how can I help you? And I still maintain contact with him to this day. When I found out I was selected for flag, he just so happens to live in my neighborhood, and I invited him and his wife over for a nice cold beer. And I just wanted to make sure he knew that there was no way that I would be here today without him. And so as you go about your day, there are very quiet people who are doing amazing things every day that are not famous people. My CO, my chiefs, who I frequently recognize because each one of them at every step along the way have taught me how to be a better person, and taught me how to be a divo and a department head and a CO. And I even joke that I even have a CMC teaching me how to be an admiral now, because this is our culture. You need to have a chief with you everywhere you go. Even the CNO has a chief, because that's how much we need them. But people who are, again, not doing it for glory, they're doing it because it's the right thing to do, and are looking to give. They give. Those are people from the sailor on your ship who comes to work before you and leaves after you, and doesn't have a stateroom and a private head, and doesn't have all the luxuries that we have, even though we're very quick to complain about them. To my family, who has supported me every step of this way at great sacrifice to themselves as well. My mom, my husband, my daughter, there are many times where they did without, just so that they could contribute to my participation. And so when I think about my heroes, or people that invested in me or the mission or our purpose because they wanted to, not because they had to.
Love it. Thank you, ma'am. Christy.
Right. I will, let's see, jump back to history, I guess. A lot of repeats from what Admiral Couture was saying, but reason for joining: money for college, not from a wealthy family. We were fine, but not, I had a sister coming behind me, and I wanted to do my part. I wanted to challenge whole person, physical, mental, emotional, morals, thinking. So the Naval Academy seemed to offer that whole package to me. Whereas before in high school, I was the nerdy type and very on the mental side, mental development, but not those other aspects that make us whole people. I also wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself. Serve my country really appealed to me. I had a grandfather and my father who had served, enlisted in the Navy and the Air Force respectively during World War II and Vietnam. And it just felt like there was a little bit of a legacy there, and something that I wanted to explore. And then as far as my reason for staying, still able to, or, you know, money's not bad, still able to go to Disney last weekend. Woo! And support a family. The work is still challenging, physically, mentally, emotionally, whole person. It stretches me. It makes me rework myself every couple of 3 years. With every duty station, I'm learning so much more, and not stuck in a cubicle for 20, 30 years. I don't think I could have done that. And I feel like I can still make a positive difference. I can still affect an organization and have a positive impact on people's lives with the work that I'm doing every day. So that's my history.
So great. Thank you. CMC.
All right, I'm going to do history. And it's got nothing to do with being a greater part of society. It was very selfish. It was very trivial. And it was out of complete jealousy. I am from the South Side of Chicago. I was 21 years old. I was living at home with my mom and dad. I had dropped out of college. Okay. Yay. I didn't drop out. I resigned. Okay. So I left college for a little bit, and I'm working downtown Chicago. My brother is an IC3 in the Navy, and that joker's sending home postcards from like Thailand and Singapore and Hawaii. And I'm in 20 inches of snow on the south side of Chicago. So I was like, that's it. I'm going. I walked into the office where I worked, and I happened to work for an admiral, a reservist admiral. I was working for the Department of Federal Occupational Health, and I walked in and I was like, Admiral, I'm quitting my job and I'm joining the Navy. And he goes, no, you're not. And I'm like, oh, yes, I am. Because I had the folder from the recruiter. He's like, what in the world are you doing? And I'm like, well, you got 2 weeks. Teach me all about it. He's like, he thought he was going to see me 6 months later. Well, I'm going to prove you wrong, boss. Right. So I joined the Navy, and after 2 years, my first duty station was Commander Naval Forces Korea. And this is circa 1998 when MWR was huge and big. And I went to Beijing, China for a week for $50. Thanks, MWR, right? Got to pet a panda. I'm like, that's it. I'm staying in the Navy for as long as it takes for me to get my passport stamped with every country that I could possibly do. So that was the initial. But then I move up. Then I'm empowered. Then I meet Janine McCarty, my first female chief, and I watch her. And I'm like, yep, we're going to stick around because I'm going to be her one day when I grow up. And then I make chief. And then I decide, well, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to be a different kind of sailor, and I'm going to go hang out with the SEALs. And then I'm going to go hang out with EOD. And then I was going to go to an amphib. Then I was going to go do the glorious tour in Millington, right? I was going to do it all because it was more than just stamps and a passport now. It was the possibility of what I could do for men and women. And that right there became my passion. The service of others, that altruism fuels my blood. And I will tell you that I will stay as long as the Navy is going to let me, because I got a big heart that's got a lot of blood to pump with a lot of sweat and tears that may come along with it. But I continue to write new pages in my history book. And thanks to all of you and everyone that I come into contact with, I get new pages. So why not stop now? It's going to be a really big book. I'll sell it on Amazon for all of you.
So great. Well, it looks like you might have at least 32 buyers because I'm loving watching everyone's face on here, just nodding and reacting to you. This is really a fun place to be. Admiral, over to you, ma'am, for I think we have either a hope or a hurt.
Yeah, I'll go with hope because that's the kind of person I am. Let's, we'll go with hopes. I'm going to have the honor this week of welcoming home the Operation Her story. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it, but it's an all-female honor flight. And there are women there from World War II all the way through Vietnam. And as I think of my through line through history, from where women were, as I've been thinking about that event, to where I hope we are 40 years from now when I'm on the honor flight. And all of our, children and all of our sailors are grown. My hope is that we continue to lift each other up, that we embrace an atmosphere where we cooperate and collaborate and not compete. I think when I first, joined the Navy, women were grudgingly accepted to be aboard. Like, okay, Congress made us take you, so we'll take you. It's like, all right, well, we have to have a girl on our kickball team, so all right, you're in. And which is much different than what we have today, right? And so the atmosphere was, you have to be just like us and play just by our rules if you want to succeed in this organization. For a whole series of reasons, that was not possible for me. I had to be myself. And I am really happy that I didn't give up on the Navy as a bureaucracy, and that I kept kind of walking to the beat of my own drummer. So in the future, I hope that women will continue to do just as you have done, Emily, in these forums for a long time, is find ways for people to be talent scouts. There are many people that I've met in these forums. There's many people that I've brought into the forums, and we continue to build each other up and make not just each other great, but the organization great through that as well. And that we really come to recognize each other as real people, whether that's gay or straight or Black or white, that every person is valued for their contribution to the organization. I've also gotten the honor to be part of the CNO's Women in the Navy book, so is Emily. And I also was recently in the CNO's house, and I walked in there as part of a very large group. It wasn't just me and the men, a very large group. And I was really taken aback. And it wasn't that my picture was on the wall, is that as I looked at the wall, I saw these beautiful, amazing, wonderful women that I knew, that I actually, Emily, that, Captain Lane Collins, Sunny Williams, who was, has been to space and lived across the hall from me on Saipan, or across the P-way from me on Saipan. Kayla Barron, who's getting ready to go to space again any minute now. And I could go on and on and on. And I was just really overcome by the moment of thinking, wow, this is surreal. I can't believe this is really happening. And I was there with Admiral Aguayo, Lori Aguayo, a fighting Seabee, and she was there too. And I thought, wow, this is the future. Like, how do we build on this in the future? And so for all of you who may be frustrated or have had adverse experiences, I just offer that to you as a symbol of hope, that there are people who are doing the right thing. And even though you encounter some jerks every once in a while, I hope that you're not taking them as representative of the organization. And I also hope that those people become fewer and farther between in the future.
Okay, you get me all choked up. Thank you. That was, I hope those same things too. And I think many of us do, as I can see from the facial reactions here and the chat that's blowing up. Would love to continue this. We're going to just stick to the calendar and go with what's next. And what's next is breakout rooms. So if you have chat available and you can see it, you'll see that I've just put in the chat that there'll be 3 to 4 people per room. Ask that when you get to your room that you just look at the names and go alphabetical order by your first name, and introduce yourself, and then share one of your H's. That's it. Just go around, share an H. And then if you have time to go a second time, please do. I doubt you will in 10 minutes. Try to be conscious of 10 minutes. If there's 4 of you, to try to stick to 2 so we can hear everyone. And then we'll come back and we'll share. So with that, I ask our tech assist, Vic, to go ahead and put us in breakout rooms. And we'll come back and have about 15 minutes to share again and do Q&A. Thank you. I apologize to everyone for cutting off those conversations, because if yours was anyone like at all like the one I was just in, people just shared so openly that it almost was hard to leave. So I still need to respond. So apologize for cutting those short. I offer anyone who would like to share reflections from their group. And of course, no need to share the actual personal stories that anyone else shared. Those are of course private, but you can share your reaction for sure, or you can share or ask a question. So put yourself off mute and begin a question if you have one.
Okay, I'll jump in and I'll say that in my group, I appreciated in a 10-minute span, 2 people shared, they were very vulnerable. And it just speaks to people in general are looking for places to just express themselves and have somebody else hear what they have to say. And not even that you can take any action on it on their behalf, but that they just want to be heard. And I think that is a skill set of listening that you can scale in any size or shape that you want to, whether it's in a work center or as an organization, everything in between. And to Master Chief's point, that's that hero piece. We were just heroes just now for about 10 minutes, if you don't realize it.
Desmond, thank you. Well said. I'm seeing lots of notes in the chat. Thank you for sharing that. I feel the same way. Someone else.
So our group had an interesting, it was also very, people making themselves vulnerable. So thank you for trusting us with that. And the only thing I'll say about what they said was, not to betray their trust, but it was remarkable in a couple of cases how it's the people tearing women down are other women. And I'm not sure what to do about that, except just to, police myself as much as possible. We are SWOs, we are competitive, but just try to take the high road. And when you're in charge of people, reward those that collaborate, vice those that compete and are better. Not that you shouldn't reward, we're a meritocracy, but collaboration needs to be a part of that dialogue of what we value in our people as subordinates and as leaders.
Thanks, Christy. It's really amazing. Someone else want to share?
Hey. Hi, Emily. I'll share. And first, I'll say it's great to see 3 of my heroes, you, your mom, Dr. Clauser, and Desmond, who I consider an awesome human being. And I'll just say my group, we shared 1 hope, 1 hero, and 1 hurt. And it was just amazing. And it does take courage to share. It takes courage to open up and to let others in your life. And I think what you're doing is amazing with this forum here. So continue to do that. Thank you very much.
Captain Roy Love, setting the example for all of us. So great. Thank you. Really, thank you.
Emily, one thing that struck me was how, in reflecting on the hopes and the hurts and all, I couldn't help but replay in my mind the various ways those had manifested for me. It was a great mental journey. And I realized how few leaders I had served with early in my career that were even willing to explore that openly or share what theirs were. And the few that did or have along the way are the leaders that really resonated, the ones that I felt I could trust the most and really approach if I had something going on that I needed their help and their confidence. So it's really that two-way communication of authenticity that I think creates opportunity for higher organizational performance. Kind of a weird outcome. I think historically leaders in our military, especially in the Navy, have viewed themselves as needing to be almost superhuman and protect themselves from any perception of vulnerability. And I think the opposite is also true, that when you're transparent about your human challenges, it opens an opportunity for dialogue that can really be beneficial at all levels.
Love it, Sarah. Absolutely love it. This is, that's the basis for this whole conversation today is Brene Brown's pretension that vulnerability comes before trust. And then as a follow-on from Alma Richardson's dare or challenge to us to lead authentic conversations, this was a piece that we can even do in 10 minutes, just to share a vulnerability and then how the trust is raised because of that. Jen, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just offer to Commander's point. There was always something to be said when myself, or I'm going to go by first names, or John or Errol made themselves human to the crew, because there is a seaman recruit that is struggling, that might not have an answer, but if they see their captain or their CMC or their XO stand in front of them and say, I put my pants on the same way you do, I go through the same struggles that you do, even though I'm a captain or a CMC, the trust and the buy-in you get from your crew, hold on, I got waterproof makeup on, is going to give you so much more purpose in life, that they knew that we were a family. That was my hope, to create a culture where every single man and woman felt that they were part of a family. And Commander, great words, ma'am. If you feel like sharing, you share, and watch what the world will do.
Thanks, CMC. Anyone else want to share? We're getting our chat boxes lighting up with all kinds of great notes. Rosie, would you like to share?
Sure. I think what I really appreciated too was just even in the span of 10 minutes, we probably could have been in there maybe for like another hour, and just the depth of the sharing is, when you talk to something that's so deeply personal and you realize that other people feel the same way, it really goes a long way to really validating that your feelings are okay about that topic or that situation. And I think sometimes, they talk about it being lonely at the top, or we've been geographically separated or isolated in COVID. I think this kind of a forum is great because there's people in here that have vast amounts of experiences that are very relatable, and being able to share them is in not being worried about your rank or your position or your title. And I think that's just been the most valuable and encouraging to know that, it's okay, and I really do appreciate the two that were in my group. So thank you very much. I've been very encouraged today.
Thanks, Rosie. Yeah, we do hear that phrase that it's lonely at the top, right? And, Jen reminds us it's lonely for that seaman recruit too, right? So probably lonely for more of us than maybe we let on.
Hey, Emily, can I share? I want to ask, by show of hands, how many of you watched Ted Lasso? Okay, so if you watch Ted Lasso, then you're probably on I'm a little bit behind, but I just got to the episode where they're being very vulnerable with each other, and Ted Lasso is being encouraged to open up to the therapist, and because she opens up, then he opens up, and that's really to Jen's point. you know, it really does reinvent itself whenever you are vulnerable in it. So if you're having trouble picturing how to be more vulnerable and open with the people that you work with, just watch Ted Lasso.
Awesome. Great plug there. Thanks so much, Vic. Kathy, is your hand up for Ted Lasso or your hand up to talk?
Well, both. I mean, and I can't agree. So you mentioned two of my favorite people. So Brene Brown and, Dare to Lead and everything else, who, oh, by the way, I did not realize is the unofficial president of the Ted Lasso fan club. And if you haven't heard it, I heard an interview that she did with the co-creators, and I just was captivated by the whole idea. But again, it goes back to vulnerability and expectations and hope and encouragement and helping one another. And there's just something so captivating about Ted Lasso, which I think is what we're all talking about here, which is being real with one another and being vulnerable and sharing what's going on. And I loved it in our group as well. And I think the hope, not just for, we want to leave our footprints behind for those people that we've served and for our families, for our children and our grandchildren. I shared in our group, I had a granddaughter born today. And that's something that is exciting to me, is I want her to look back one day and see their grandma, served in the Navy as well. So thanks. Appreciate this.
So awesome. All right. Any last comments? I'll invite our guest speakers today for any last comments from our panel before we at least call the hour.
I would just say thank you all for giving me the opportunity to share some of my experience with you. And I hope there's one thing that you took away today and that it was meaningful for you. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for having me here. I feel like we're so close to being where we need to be as a group, as a Navy organization. We've got so many heroes making a difference every day. So many of you all making a positive difference every day. So I wish everybody the best of luck. Thanks for listening to me, and have a great evening.
Thanks for sharing, Christy. CMC, I'm going to give you the chance to have the last word before we start the after party.
I would like to remind everybody to drink as much pop as you possibly can. Pop is the power of positivity. All right. It's just as good for you as water is. So get busy drinking, and don't forget to take your vitamin C every day. Vitamin C, commitment, connections, and conversations, and watch the magic that happens with pop and vitamin C. Thank you everybody for letting me babble too. You guys are all awesome.
So great. I feel like we should just all start dancing with our hands up, drinking our pop and taking our pop and our vitamin C. All right. Well, that is the top of the hour. I do invite people to, log off. This was an hour. And if you would like to stick around, certainly happy to have you dig into any further conversations. But thank you so much to our guest panel today and to everyone who shared so vulnerably with each other.
Is this where we start chair dancing now? This is exciting.
Start chair dancing.